got Andrew Junnn, right? That's how you say your last name?
There's a funny story about that, actually.
Okay.
So most of my life, I pronounce it Junnn.
Oh.
Okay. Then, when my brother went into the military, he started pronouncing it Junnn, like dropping the middle U, because it made it easier for people to yell at him.
It's easier to yell at.
And so I adopted that, and then I learned that it's actually pronounced Juntanen. Juntanen, because it's Finnish.
Huh.
So the J turns into like a Y sound, basically.
Really?
Yeah, and
well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like you don't say jalapeno, you know what I mean?
Yeah, or like a Carl Jung. Like
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Huh.
So I'm trying really hard to actually start pronouncing it like that, and I just straight up told my family, I was like, yeah, I'm pronouncing it like this from now on, like deal with it.
This is me now.
Yeah, it's not like I'm being the rebel. They are, okay, by not pronouncing it the right way.
Yeah.
Anyways, sometimes I still forget, but since we're talking about it,
yeah,
it's my last name.
Yeah, I just want to make sure I say it right, because you never know. Because like you don't.
Apparently, I never know sometimes.
Because we don't say our like proper surnames very often.
That's true.
It's just like you're just Andrew. Yeah. Well, this is Night Jams. Corey, what are we doing today?
It's looking pretty good. Thinking about we changed some stuff up,
has to fight his worst enemy, himself.
Yeah! Too much power!
Under a building. What compelled you to do this?
Well, you see, there's this guy named Corey, and he was like, hey, you should do it. And I was like, no. And then I did. Why did I do it?
It's got kind of a weird structure for a movie because it was originally shot as a TV pilot.
I'm gonna do it with a little bit more speed. I came in and there's a camera and I was like, ah. This is gonna be a quality podcast.
Quality. Only quality. Yeah, I was thinking about it, and like, dude, you've been like with this group for like ever, right? Like you were like with the crew training at Bella Vista and stuff.
Oh
and,
yeah,
like,
with the parkour crew back in the day. I've been training for, well, I wouldn't say that I'm regularly training anymore, but I've been involved in parkour for almost 10 years.
Yeah, that's nuts.
Yeah.
Does that freak you out when you say that?
It doesn't because parkour is probably the most non-defined activity that I've done. So it's taken a lot of different forms over the years in terms of like the focus that I've had. It's always kind of had an acrobatic element to it, and it's always had a utilitarian element to it of like, climbing and running and swimming, and so I would kind of consider the evolution of activities from parkour and rock climbing and free diving. It's all kind of feels like the same thing to me. Yeah. Because it has that same spirit of like using your body for transportation and using your body for expression in an acrobatic sense. So right now, I don't do parkour so much in the commonly accepted sense, you know what I mean, where people are like going out and doing like sticking challenges and doing lines and stuff like that. But I'm doing like a lot of mountaineering. I'm doing a lot of like cliff jumping and like cliff diving acrobatic stuff right now. So it still feels like I'm staying true to myself in terms of like following the evolution of the art for me, whatever form it takes. But I'm not necessarily doing parkour in the classical sense right now. But I'm still progressing off of the same type of format. Like you show up to a spot and you still use that same kind of parkour format to size up whatever it is you're trying to go for. And
your risk assessment, your progression, your all those things.
You just take where you're at and where you want to get, and then you subtract the difference, basically. Figure it out from there.
I like that.
Yeah. That's parkour.
Parkour. Yeah, like I've been trying to learn Wim Hof breathing. I've been playing with that breathing technique, and like I was like, man, I feel like Wim Hof breathing is closer to parkour than some things I've seen in like parkour videos. It's just like there's something about just like the mindset of like mastering your body and like there's there's like more of this Zen kind of aspect to it.
Well, and it's about like Wim Hof breathing is about like unlocking your ability that you already have, right?
Yeah.
Which is totally parkour.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Are you doing that for like cold water?
I want to build up to that.
Yeah.
Also, like my house, because winter's coming,
Okay.
And where I live isn't very insulated.
So trying to use
there's a practical approach to
minimalism challenge. There.
Yeah,
for sure.
but
Cool.
yeah. There's somewhere I wanted to go with that after that. Oh, you're cliff jumping. You're talking about cliff jumping when we were hanging out at Josh's house.
Yeah.
Yeah, you had this pretty cool story of you just randomly met this event that was happening in the middle of nowhere.
Well, it was cool because cliff jumping is one of those things that it's been kind of a built-in portion of Adventure Times, you know what I mean, where everyone goes out and then there's a cliff and everyone kind of gets sendy on it a little bit, and over the years you start to try some flips off of the lower ones, and then you have that benchmark where like you go to Blue Streak and you do a gainer off Blue Streak and you're just like, oh, that's cool, like I'll never like top that, you know what I mean, like in your mind. And then you just kind of start to develop a capacity to be a little more comfortable and a little more fluent with jumping off of higher stuff and building that relationship with the gut feeling that you get when you're jumping off of something high, and you start to not be as afraid of the whole concept, you know. And so then, you know, just like with parkour, I built that up, and then I got to a certain point where I had like this aha moment, like, okay, now this is what I'm doing, and I have a little bit of a competency to go off of, you know what I mean? So with cliff jumping, that exact same thing happened this past summer where I was at McLeod Falls, which is up close to Mount Shasta, and during Adventure Week, which was like one of the weeks that we had up there with the class, we went to McLeod Falls and we were all like jumping off the 40-footer, and then I was like, I just want to go up to the 80-footer, which is like way above the waterfall, and just look at it, and like the instructors were like, okay, like go up and just look at it, and I was like, and if I feel like it, I'm probably gonna do it. So I went up to the top and I was like, I gave like a thumbs up, like this feels good, and then JT, one of the instructors down at the bottom, was just like, no, Union, let's just wait. Come back next week. I want to do it with you. And I was like, okay, that's worth it, because if you have someone to like share in breaking a new jump with you, just like in parkour, it's always better. Like you just have that camaraderie element.
Yeah.
And so we did. We went back like the following weekend, and you know, eyeballed it up and everything, and jumped it like 2 or 3 times each, and when we were like swimming out of the water, like the second or third time, like all these people started to show up, and this one guy like went up and just like did a double, like without even hesitating, just did a double off the 80-footer.
Whoa!
And those moments just like stick with you so hard when you see this manifestation of something that you've seen like on YouTube like 100 times, but it just does not even compare. You know, and you see like, you know, 5-10 guys going up there just doing all sorts of variations of doubles and stuff off the top, and that was like my aha moment. I was like, okay, now I know what I'm going to do for the next like 10 years. You know?
I just cliff jumping.
Yeah, it was.
Oh man,
it was a super cool feeling to know that like a trail has kind of begun down this.
Yeah.
And so
yes, that's one of the things you were talking a lot about when we were at the fire pit. Just like how it felt like it was like in its infancy, and all these people were excited about it, and they're taking videos, and it's like. It's this small thing that's like building some momentum.
Yeah. Well, I mean, cliff diving is not in its infancy really at all. And diving's been around for a long time, and there's people that are way more proficient at diving technique and everything.
Oh yeah, like the Olympics, like with like they do like the double dive, and like you got the onion skin of them slowly hitting the pool at the same time.
But I think that social media, how it is now, is really boosting people's capacity to see how accessible it is to just like go out and explore and find spots, and like a more of a format is emerging of like how to do it like well, I guess like you,
safely and
like you like you know, you spot check, you take a mask down, and you're checking the spots and everything, and instead of people just hucking themselves off cliffs, like people are like wearing wetsuits and stuff now to like kind of help themselves be more protected. And you can go jump spots in like the winter. Like there's like people going and jumping spots like when it's snowing out and stuff, and like going in wetsuits, and it's like super rad, you know?
That's cool.
Yeah.
That sounds like a really cool video.
Yeah. And a lot of the really, really awesome spots like in the Pacific Northwest and stuff, and I don't know, maybe other places farther north, it doesn't matter what time of the summer it is, it's going to be cold.
Yeah.
So if you want to do more than like 1 or 2 jumps, you're going to need to suit up.
Yeah.
Probably, unless you're doing Wim Hof.
It's true.
Then maybe you'll be okay.
Unless you've unlocked your
yeah,
your mind's control over your body,
which is an element of cliff jumping as well.
I bet. No, like I've only done the blue streak jump once, and because like I have to do it with my glasses off.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so you just see like the fuzzy like dots of the water, the
Right.
reflection going off, and you're like, I guess I'll just. Well, I've been up here long enough. I think.
Yeah.
I might as well just do it.
I'll say this. That's one of the really, really interesting things about cliff jumping, that it's kind of mysterious. I'm sure there's a physiological reasoning for it and everything, but when you do a flip off of something high, you don't get the gut feeling. At all.
Really?
Like I've done a jump, like a straight jump off of like a 50-footer, and then go up and like do a gainer off the 50-footer, and it's just bliss. Like you don't get any type of gut expectation or like your stomach dropping. You don't get that at all.
Weird.
Yeah.
Huh. I would have never guessed that.
Yeah, it has something to do probably with like your eyes sensing like motion, or I don't know what it is. Something visual. I've got to think that it's something visual.
Huh.
But yeah, that's like a really cool element of cliff jumping, is that the flips actually have a practical application.
Yeah.
I mean, like in parkour, it's kind of like hit and miss, and it's more about the expression.
Yeah.
But in cliff jumping, like, it's way easier to gainer off something than it is to straight jump it. For me. Now it is. That's like the new standard.
Yeah.
But
I would have never guessed that. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Huh.
So more unlocking.
Yeah.
Type of mindset. You know what I mean?
That's super cool. What's it like falling from? What is it, 80 feet?
Yeah.
How long do you feel like you're falling?
About twice as long as you think you're gonna fall. Because you jump, and then when you get to about halfway, I estimate when you get to about halfway, because like you can see the other cliff next to you when you pass by it, that's when your body feels like it's gonna hit the water, and then you go again. So yeah, it's like it feels like you're doing 2 jumps back to back.
That's ridiculous. Because you're just falling.
Yeah, and I hit the water like pretty good both times. I think. I don't remember like getting the wind knocked out. It kind of feels like you explode when you hit the water though, because like you kind of keep your body tight, so when you hit the water, you're not like hitting with a lot of surface area.
Yeah.
But you go in, and then your arms and legs just get like ripped open, and it's like slows you down.
Yeah.
Which is a really cool feeling.
All that drag.
Yeah, it's just like you're just completely out of control, and just going with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so that is, I guess that is a cool cool line that you ride with something like cliff jumping is, you control your initial takeoff and maybe the shape of your body in the air, and then that's it. Like you're really at the whim of gravity at that point. We always are, but it's just more it's more accentuated. You feel it more,
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah, I like how the idea isn't that you're doing something and it's risky and you're losing control when you do it. You're just like aware of the control that you actually have.
Yeah.
In like any situation.
Yeah.
Because everything has some sort of other force that can come in and mess you up, and there's only so much you can control.
Well, and the biggest thing that you can control for sure is the preparation that you've put into it. Yeah. Because here's a good example of that. The other day, I just got in a wetsuit, and me and my friend Jeff from the Way PK, we've been jumping this spot in Folsom, and a wetsuit is nice for this time of year because it's like kind of chilly, and you can jump it without a wetsuit. But if you want to do jumps for like an hour or something like that, you probably want to have a suit. And if you're going to try newer stuff off the top of a 50 foot jump, it's nice to have a little bit of like second skin to break the impact, which as I found out was nice. So him and I have been kind of not pioneering like for the rest of the community, but just for us. Like we've been working on this trick for cliff jumping called a fliffus in trampoline, I think. But it's a front flip to half. So it's a front flip to front half.
Interesting.
And it's like definitely one of the preferred cliff jumping flips that I've seen, because you do the front flip and then you come out and you just spot the water as you're going into your second flip.
Okay.
Ideally.
Okay.
And we learned it. Well, he's been doing it on trampoline for like a little bit, and then I learned it later in August or early in September. and we've just been kind of like pushing this trick a little bit, and we made it our goal to do it off of Blue Streak before the end of the summer. And so we went there and we did it off Blue Streak, and that was like a super high moment, because we go into Blue Streak for like years and years, and the only thing that I've ever done off of it was like a gainer or a front flip. And to do a double off of that was like a huge like highlight, you know what I mean? Like a huge benchmark. And it was like super easy when we did it. We're like, that was like nothing. Like that felt like so right. So when you build that type of like history and that type of comfortability with a move, or just with yourself, like as a person, and just like knowing that you have the confidence to land that, it's good, because that gives you like a reference point moving forward. So then like when we go to like Big Tit is the name of this other jump in Folsom.
Yeah, I know that spot.
Yeah. So we go there and we're like, you know, doing some front to front half, like off of the lower one, which is like probably 18-20 feet, and just like feeling it out, and then like going up on the top one and like doing gainer off the top, and then being like, okay, like we know we did it off Blue Streak, like we think we can do it off this, we just did it off of the lower one, and you just work through all these progressions. It's the same parkour mindset, right?
Yeah.
And so he lines his up and does his, and it's like perfect, because like he's practiced it a lot, like on trampoline and everything too. He has like super good air awareness, and so I go up, and takeoff's like a little bit funky, and I wish I could blame this on my wetsuit and like say like, like it wasn't like totally just right, but like honestly the wetsuit was perfect. It was fine. So I threw into it, and I yanked the half like way too early. So maybe I'll put the video up or something like that so people can see.
Yeah.
But so I threw the front flip, and I yanked the half way too early. So I actually did the front half first, and I started to over rotate, and I just did a back flip out and landed it just fine from like 45, 50 feet.
Wow.
So that was like when that happened. First of all, I came up out of the water and I was like, did I just do a triple? Because I wasn't expecting to do a backflip out. But it was also a nice little testament. Like I give myself a little pat on the back, because I was like, okay, I completely messed it up, and I still had the awareness to land on my feet from that. So it was like a combination of feeling like, okay, I'm glad that I had the awareness to bail that, and not even bail it, like I landed it, like it's fine.
Yeah.
But also looking at that objectively from where I've been and my progression up to that point, and being like, okay, it would probably behoove me to, you know, work on my technique a little bit more, so that I'm not accidentally doing a double flip that I haven't done before off of the top. Like you want to know where you're at. It's like, it's not a good feeling to land something on accident.
Yeah.
You know, you really want to know where you're at. So yeah, for the rest of the day, I just started was just drilling some other flips and doing the same move off the lower one. And you just have to, you know, take a slice of humble pie and be like, this is where I'm at. Even though my friend just did like two beautiful ones off the top, and like I want to be in that same boat so bad. Yeah. Like you say, you know what, like the progressions that always feel the best in my mind is where you're just kind of grinding on something, and then all of a sudden one day, like a light bulb, you know what I mean? Like you don't really have to plan and like force yourself to do progressions, as long as you are being consistent about doing the other components, you know? Yeah. And then
in that moment, did it feel like something else was like overriding you? Like some other old skill was Andrew decided to do this, and now I gotta come in here and like just correct you right away.
I don't know, man.
Or was it just
you watched the video and tell me?
I've done bails before really cleanly, and I was like, I have no idea how I did that. Like,
I think the thing that like gave me the most, the thing that gave me the most safety net on that was having done that jump before, like quite a few times.
Yeah.
So I had been straight jumping that jump for like a few years, and then I'd done a gainer off it a couple times. So intrinsically I knew the amount of time that I had to get to the bottom, I think, and so that's how I made it around.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely. It feels bad, obviously, to like I kind of got had by that jump. You know what I mean? I did not complete, basically. But it feels good to be able to look at that objectively with where I'm at right now and know what I need to do to get there.
Yeah.
Because it's not too unlike anything that I've done before.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that feels good.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, it's been interesting trying to, because I've been trying to learn how to skateboard and like doing things that you're really, really bad at and having just to be like, no, this is where I'm at and I just got to keep working at it and, you know, just do it 20 more times. You know,
skateboarding is crazy to me, dude.
Yeah.
Like I have that's something that I have no frame of reference for at all, except for the fact that I've like tried to ride a skateboard a couple times. And not so well.
Well, it's super weird because it's like when you first ride it, or like once you get over that hump, it's like, oh, now I feel confident on it and I can ride it around. Mm-hmm. All you got to do is switch your feet of like which foot's leading, and then all of a sudden, like you're back at square one again.
Yeah,
you know, and it's a really good reminder of like how your body's building this like motion code of like Yeah, like I had it. It's been stuck in my head since I heard this. I think it was a Science Friday I heard about this. It was a guy made a bike that like when you turned it one way, it went the other way. So when you turned it left, it went right. And so he welds this thing up, and he's trying to learn how to ride it. And he's like, I'll give you $100 if you can ride this more than 5 feet. You know, like. Because you just eat knobs so fast because you think you can correct, your body corrects faster than you can think.
It's like trying to learn how to back up a trailer.
Yeah. It's like everything's backwards and you have no frame of reference. But after 3 months of playing with his bike, you could ride it. And then his son could learn how to ride it in 1 month or something like that.
After 3 months of playing with it.
Yeah.
I don't know if you said that intentionally like that, but that speaks volumes to me, honestly. Because playing is like... It's
yeah.
You know, your mode is intention, not expectation when you're playing with something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's huge. That's like with wilderness skills, that's a huge thing.
Yeah.
With wilderness skills is learning how to play with something before you really set out to get a result.
Yeah. That's fascinating because with wilderness, it's all serious because like it's about survival. You know, it's about.
Yeah,
you know, it's like some people can get really kind of like prepper about that.
Yeah, man, that's a great way to burn out, I think. Honestly, like just as an example, like hand drill, like getting a cold with like hand drill or any kind of fire by friction setup.
Yeah.
The thing that helped me the most at that was just like any stick of wood that I could find and anything else that I could like spin it in, I would just do that like all the time.
You just walking along, you find a good stick, and you just hang on to it.
Yeah, and you basically that's just like your medicine. Basically, is that you just kind of do hand drill on everything. You know what I mean? And when you can, the only way to maintain that kind of obsessive nature about something is to not have a set expectation so much. You know what I mean? Because when you have that. It just ruins it. Yeah. Like obviously you need to have like a certain amount of success, otherwise you lose interest.
Yeah, but those are like almost happy accidents. Like
they can be.
Like you didn't expect to have that type of success.
Well, and that kind of success comes from having getting feedback and being honest with yourself about it. You know what I mean? So like with hand drill, for instance, like if you're like going, you're like, oh, I'm getting smoke, but like. You know, I'm not getting a coal. Like why is that? And like, hopefully, there's someone that knows what's up with that kind of situation, and they can help you. But if not, you'll probably figure out if you keep on doing it that it's the quality of your materials, or it's the length of your spindle, or it's your technique, and you'll just kind of start to tinker with those things one at a time. You know, and
if you're doing it all the time, you're always changing those materials up.
Right,
you know?
Exactly.
So like you might grab different types of wood or different
is just doing the same thing on
drills, and then you might, that's awesome.
And that's I feel like that variation is a huge element to mastering anything. Like I know some of my friends in the parkour community would talk about like that with flips and stuff like that. It's like, man, how'd you get so good at side flips? And they're like, just do side flips on all types of different setups. Not side flips all the time. It's not just about the frequency. Yeah. It's about the variety, like you were talking about, because that's what gives you feedback in the skill.
Yeah. Like on grass, off stuff, up to stuff, like all those different off a rail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And man, that's shining a light on one of my favorite things that I've learned in this past summer is who's the real teacher. You know what I mean? When it comes to learning skills and everything, is it the teacher or is it like the situation? So when I first started thinking about this when I was doing flint knapping, because the guy that taught me flint knapping didn't teach me a whole lot, like verbally. Like I would watch him do stuff, and then I would go like on a piece of obsidian and I would just work it. And the cool thing with working with flint and obsidian, making stone points, is that the variety, you can really see it in each rock. You know, and you can see, you can kind of see the arrowhead like before it's made. Like you can be like, as you get better at it, you can be like, okay, I can see how this would work out. But like if I push a flake off of this rock in this way and it turns into a shelf, like that's not going to work. So you have so many teachers. Each rock is like it's teaching you how to flint knap. You know what I mean? And you can take that and you can apply it to so many other things. Each precision that you do in parkour is teaching you how to do a precision jump. You know what I mean? You might get a tip or something like that from someone who's a teacher or from another person who's more proficient at it, but ultimately, like your biggest teacher is going to be the situation itself, and your ability to extract the lessons from those situations is largely dependent upon how much experience you have with a variety of situations.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's almost seeking the meta jump or the meta arrowhead. It's like what's like the idea of arrowhead and where is it in the rock?
Totally,
and
that's
then every
huge.
rock's a little different, so it can kind of morph.
Yeah.
I carved wooden spoons for a bit.
Okay.
So it's like the subtraction, digging into it, realizing like how much material is actually there.
Yeah.
Like when you've got like a branch, it's like there's a lot of wood in there.
Yeah.
You know.
So how much material you're probably going to waste on the way to making meta spoon?
yeah, and so and that's kind of comforting because if you go too deep, there's a there's some nice balance. If you go too deep at some point, you're like, oh well, I can just. It's like that's okay because there's lots of wood. You know, I can just keep ripping it off.
Yeah, that's what the guy taught me flint knapping. Jack Harrison. He's like this amazing survival guy.
Yeah,
and he just like handed us like a huge pile of obsidian flakes, obsidian flint, and chert, I think was the other one. And he was like, all right guys, make me some nice piles of dust. Like you just know when someone's getting into something like that, there's going to be a lot of dust. Like you're just going to be grinding down an arrowhead. And my first arrowhead that I made was like this fat little like Christmas tree looking thing. I just didn't know how to.
It's like a cone.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
it was just fat. I didn't know how to like shoot the right flakes off it and everything. But there was a book in the kitchen library at the school that I went to up there, the wilderness school, and it kind of laid out really nicely that progression of working from a play mindset to like a craftsman mindset, you know.
Yeah.
And it talks about like level 1 is just you're just playing with a skill. Like if you're looking at an arrowhead as an example, you're just making things that look like arrowheads. Maybe like I call it the arrowhead necklace stage. I'm just making tons of arrowhead necklaces. Like I could try to mount them on an arrow, but it's like not flat enough yet. I don't know how to shoot the flakes right. But
that's just good marketing. Like it's jewelry now.
Well, that's my way of playing with it.
Yeah,
that's my way of looking at the situation and being like, oh, I'm not making shitty arrowheads. I'm making great arrowhead necklaces. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm okay with that, and I'm just gonna keep on doing it because like I enjoy it, and like and they're getting better and better, and they're getting to look less like arrowhead necklaces. And I actually mounted one on a piece of wood the other day, and I was like, sweet, looks kind of awesome. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, and
that also was me like playing with this idea of arrowhead, you know.
Yeah,
and then the second phase is experimental. So first phase is play, second phase is experimental. And this applies to like wilderness skills, but you can apply it to everything, I think.
Yeah, no, that sounds like a really good model.
The second stage, experimental, and that's when you're making things that are usable, basically. Like your arrowhead, like you can shoot it. You know what I mean? Like it can kill something.
Yeah, it's practical, but it's not.
It's not a work of art yet. And the main difference between stages 2 and 3, and stage 3 is experiential and experimental. Is you're making arrowheads that are basically like recreations of ancient arrowheads. They're like crafts, basically. Like there's an artistic element to it, I guess you could say.
Or refinement. Yeah.
Right. And that I think it's called experimental because it works dependently. You're not just making something and like every once in a while it works. You know what I mean? That's experimental.
Yeah.
Or sorry, it's experiential. Experimental is like you're you're making an arrowhead, but instead of just making an arrowhead, you're like, okay, now I want to change it a little bit like this, and you're like, yeah, refining.
Yeah.
Like you were saying.
So it was play, and it doesn't go right to experimental. There was a step in between, or
play, experiential.
Okay, experiential.
I don't know exactly why they chose that, because it's kind of all experiential, but like,
yeah.
I think experiential is maybe like you're experiencing the result, that makes sense. Like what it can give you. Like if you're in the experiential phase of like making an arrowhead, you're not just making an arrowhead, you're making a hunting arrowhead that you're using to like kill something.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of like it's a good thing to think about overall for me at this point in my life right now too, because I'm at the play phase of, I still don't know exactly what you would call the lifestyle that I'm trying to pursue, but not what I've been doing.
Yeah.
So
it's like there's been a direction shift then.
Yeah. So I'm in the play phases of like primitive and nomadic type lifestyle, and I still am really passionate about movement arts and everything like that. But I'm trying to divorce movement arts from like a more money-driven society, perhaps.
Yeah.
I guess. Like, yeah. I don't know how set I am on completely demonetizing myself, because I think it's helpful to be able to exist in both worlds.
Yeah.
But I'd like less monetization of what I do and who I am.
Yeah.
Because I find more meaning in it, and I'd like to share that with people. So.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. I think this, what you just explained there, is the prime example, because I've been asking myself this question of like, because getting into skateboarding, it's made me see the skate culture and the skate community, mm-hmm. and how it's like there's just like multiple generations of skaters, the skaters from all ages. There's all these different like points of view about it. Mm-hmm. You've got like the old guard and like all the Rodney Mullins and Tony Hawks of the world that are running around. And then you've got like all these new guys coming in, and it's like it's always being kind of reinvented and recreated. And there's all these there's a whole industry, around it. And I'm not seeing that get created for parkour. And not to say that like it has to do that, but just to know like if you're gonna have a life, like if you're super passionate about this thing, like if you're passionate about skateboarding, there's that dream of like, oh, I can go pro. There's that path that exists that you can do. But with parkour, I feel like the type of person that has that thought, it's like, oh, I could do this my whole life, ends up in the wilderness somewhere with a bow drill, going like, I don't want any money, I just want to be self-reliant, I read Into the Wild, and you're just like, you're going off the rails almost.
I mean, there's people that...
In a good way,
For sure. There's people that are making their living doing parkour more now than they were even like a couple years ago. Yeah, I think. But as far as it having its own culture, as opposed to kind of like a lot of people that I see doing well in parkour, they're still doing like stunts and stuff like that. There's not like they're running parkour events, like skating events. They're not like getting those big sponsorships. And like I've always thought about that too as parkour, like versus skateboarding. Is parkour doesn't really have like a totem item. You know what I mean? Like, like skateboarding, it's the skateboard. You know what I mean? Like everything kind of revolves around that. All the gear kind of like, I don't know. Maybe I'm just talking out my ass.
No, totally. Like the bloody bolts you buy to bolt the trucks to the board are different. Like there's different brands that make different. They're just bolts. Yeah. But no, these are Iron Horse bolts. So Iron Horse has stickers. They've got money. They sponsor a skater. So it's like every single one of those things. All the grip tape, all the boards, all the different trucks, all those guys, and the shoes and the clothes, all those have skaters they sponsor. Yeah. So that's just, and all those people are now making content, and they just get the next generation into it. And and skateboard's having a rough time with like scooters and stuff, but there's still a bunch of kids super into it.
Yeah, I think skating's not going anywhere. I think it's always going to be around, dude. Yeah, it's just got like a, I don't know. There's like a fantasy element to skateboarding. You know what I mean? Like even I get sucked into it sometimes. Like Lords of Dogtown. Like I love that movie.
I haven't seen that.
And like there's this movie called Mid-90s. I think it's coming out soon. Jonah Hill directed it.
Oh yeah,
he's not in it.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
like,
No, I've heard about that.
It looks
yeah.
really entertaining, and it's, you know what's weird too with like, I don't know, skateboarding, and like it's kind of grungy, and
Definitely.
and it kind of attracts like a rough crowd and stuff like that, which I'm not a part of at all. But I like spectating, and I like listening to like grungy hip hop and rap and stuff like that. But like I don't associate myself with it at all. But like I enjoy its presence in the culture. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
it's like a necessary like balance to things.
Yeah.
It's like this extreme.
Yeah, and it's like it's weird. It's not even that I like respect the lifestyle. I really don't. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of like has like elements of like destruction and like, you know, disrespect. But like I'm okay with disrespect towards the right things, I suppose.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I like the overall like pursuit of like self-expression and like don't give a fuck about society type of thing.
Yeah.
You know, like I just choose to kind of chase a different path, you know, of that, differentiating myself from mainstream. You know? So I guess that's the thing that I do respect about skating, you know, hip hop culture in general, and certain things like that, is that, you know, the enemy of my enemy is my friend kind of thing.
We're both getting kicked out of public spots.
But while you're drinking Rockstar, I'm like eating some like deer that I just hunted or something.
Yeah, yeah. You've got like your homemade kombucha or something.
Yeah, something
or
like
your big pile of sweet potatoes. I remember that one time you were at Victor's house.
Oh,
it's cooking.
Always, dude.
You were just like laying out a bunch of sweet potatoes in the oven.
But I think that the goal of like any kind of countercultural thing is like we want an existence that is more dense and more meaningful. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And you know, who am I guess to say that like you can't get it through another means, as long as it's not like destroying the planet. I guess I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
You know, that's kind of becoming a harder thing to find nowadays, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Especially with the monetization of everything, but you know, still, if that spirit is there, there's hope. You know what I mean? Like it can be steered, it can be woven into something good.
Yeah.
I think, and that I think everyone knows that, kind of implicitly, unless, you know.
But like this is like a positive foundation of like building your character and building.
It can be like it's like, you know, if you want to change, if you want to do something about who you are as a person, like first it helps to look at something and be like, okay, well I know I'm not that, you know.
Yeah.
So, you know, as much as I don't agree sometimes with how people, you know, have their own interventions and everything and their own ways that they like to differentiate themselves, like I do definitely appreciate that, you know.
Yeah.
So anyways.
Yeah. So you respect the fact that someone can, you know, take a hard look at themselves and go like, I don't really like this. I'm gonna mix this up. I'm gonna change. I'm gonna try to change. Be proactive about this.
And you know what? In a really clear cut way, that's what parkour is in a sense, because parkour is like where are all the best parkour spots at? Inner cities, like in cities and stuff like that. And it's a rebellion against the city being like, this is the way you do things, this is the way you go. And so one way to rebel against that is to live in the city and be like, fuck that, I'm gonna go this way, I'm gonna do all this other stuff, I'm not gonna like go where you want me to go or be who you want me to be. Or you can just leave the fucking city and go somewhere else where you don't have to be in that type of like almost combative mindset, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously culture isn't just gonna like dissolve overnight, so I think that it's awesome that like there's parkour and like skating, I guess, has that same type of you know, trend.
Yeah, I remember there's a documentary called Why Beauty Matters, and it was all from this kind of stuffy British philosopher. He's going around talking about like how he's basically, it's an hour-long rant of why he doesn't like modern art and why and its shortcomings and this and that, and why, you know, older art was richer. But in the documentary, because he talked about art and architecture, he shows some bits of like a city, and there's this like just kind of decrepit staircase that's all concrete. It's got some nice rails, And when he says, and that was like in his example of like ugliness, right? And I was like, well, that's just because you're looking at it from the wrong point of view. Because I look at that, that's got a lot of potential.
It's from like a skating perspective and stuff, or
just from parkour. Because like you could that's a nice wall run. You got that rail. You can pop over the rail. You come off the other side. It's like there's like so much that you could do in that space, but because he was looking at it from just like a visual aesthetic and not like an aesthetic of like how to move your body through it, he wasn't seeing it for everything it could be.
Totally.
I can. That was fascinating.
I definitely relate to that in terms of I'm like, I see movement as art, as artistic expression and everything, and I see craftsmanship as an artistic expression, even if it's not an art piece that you're doing. I'm not very artistic in that sense. Like, I'll be the first to say it. Like, I like drawing and stuff like that, but just like for fun and like my strength is not like fine detail and like being very meticulous like along the way. Like, I'm just kind of like, I'm all about momentum basically when it comes to like doing a project or something like that.
That's smart, because then like you don't your project doesn't die, like if you're just like slowly working on it, sometimes it can just fizzle out. Like if you ride that momentum just right, it can complete before you run out of juice.
But like I see this trend happening in like a lot of things in my life, like whether it's even in movement, like in acrobatics is like an example for me. Like I'm kind of rough around the edges. Like I don't really, like, I know the right way. I used to coach gymnastics, you know what I mean? Like I know that like if you wanted to like, have perfect form and everything, you like do all these drills and everything, but like I just want to like kind of do it as I go, you know what I mean? And like my strong suit is like taking initiative on something, not necessarily like doing it the best, but like maybe like being one of the first. You know what I mean? And I guess one of the reasons why I'm okay with that, it doesn't come from like a place of laziness. It comes from a place of me seeing other people that are much, much better than I am at being meticulous and like being, you know what I mean? Like, if I'm living in a community with those people, I don't have to be so hard on myself and grind and like try and be such a perfectionist. You know what I mean? Because, if I'm like, and I will be with certain things more than others, you know what I mean? But like, again, part of it is that I'm in the play phase of like exploring, these different things.
Because you're going to bring like a new move into the group because your friends are drilling this thing.
Maybe,
they're going to see you do it and they're going to get excited, so they're going to want to try it. And now they're drilling that thing. And now they're way better at it than you, but like you got it into the group first, and like you brought it into the community maybe.
I guess that's part of the reason why I'm like, I don't think it's coming from a place of laziness. I think it's more of just a personality thing, is that like I enjoy doing that. And I see other people that they enjoy fine-tuning things and they enjoy like, being meticulous about details and like form on things and everything, like, because I feel like we're all kind of in like the pursuit of like that meta, like you were talking about. I love that you brought that into this conversation. I keep thinking about that. Is that it's much more fulfilling like when it's a group effort towards something. You know? And so it could be a movement, it could be like a meal, it could be some form of construction or something like that. It could be an environmental project. You know what I mean?
I didn't even think about that as a meal, because potlucks are always amazing. Because people bring all
right,
like a great Thanksgiving. Everyone brought some dish. And now you got this fat spread.
Or like at this wilderness. I didn't even talk to you about this yet. I went to like a week-long wilderness skills retreat down in Santa Barbara for like this past week. That's why I didn't want to do this before I left. I wanted to do it when I came back. So I think there's gonna be some good shit down there. It was.
It was.
Yeah, it was an all guys retreat. So there was like 50 guys there, and I was like on the younger side of things, which was really cool because I got to spend time with like some elders, that are in that next phase of life, not just age-wise, but also towards the lifestyle that I'm trying to go towards. So it was like the best. It was like the best thing. I felt super empowered being there. Because there's like guys that are professional hide tanners and guys that are blacksmiths and like guys that are like professional chefs for like wild food specifically and spearfishers and like all sorts of stuff. And the kitchen was like the heart of the event basically, because people brought like there was like 2 deer there that like had been killed and butchered. There was wild boar. There was a pig that someone had just butchered like from their farm. Oh. There was swordfish and tuna belly, and like that was just the meat for the event for the whole week for like 50 people. And on top of that, there was like so much organic produce, like you couldn't even believe it, honestly.
Yeah.
Like,
there was all like wildly foraged stuff. And
like, it was either wild foraged stuff or it was like from organic farms that were like local. So like, because a good amount of the guys there are like organic farmers. And so it's like organic farmers, hunters, and craftsmen, basically. Yeah.
And, awesome.
and a couple like people that are involved in like conservation work or something like that.
Yeah.
But pretty much everyone was like heavily invested in some way, shape, or form. And,
like if you wanted to build a city from scratch, like that's your team that you want to have.
Yeah.
You know?
And one guy worked for Patagonia.
Really?
Yeah, which was cool.
Huh.
Yeah, and so that was a big part of it. Is like a really cool group of people. Like everyone just instantly kind of like sank in and got comfortable around each other and everything. And there wasn't any there wasn't any tension among the group of trying to get attention from females or anything like that, because there's no one there. There's no girls there. You know what I mean? Like even if it's not in a romantic sense, I feel like that's still a bit of a commodity within like the male community, is like how much attention can you get from girls? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just noticed. It's just something that like you take note of, and it kind of builds walls sometimes.
Yeah.
And so that was cool. Like everyone was so focused and productive the whole time, and like and not worried about like, I don't know, having like females like nitpick what you're doing in the kitchen, for instance, which is like a place where like gender roles can kind of like come into play.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so instead of stuff like that happening, like it was just guys doing work the whole time and like having to figure things out. And it was really cool. Like an example of like just the chillness of the community there was on the second day, this guy Jack and his son showed up, and they were just going to be there for the day, and because they were like friends of one of the survival guys that was there, wilderness guys. And so we were there, we were like hanging out with this guy and his son, like shooting bows and like throwing knives and stuff. And then like after lunch there was like going to be a talk in the teepee about like father-son relationships. And so I went into the teepee, and like this guy like Jack was in there, and like all those other people and everything, and someone's like, yeah, that's Jack Johnson. And I was like, oh. Like Jack Johnson, like the singer, Jack Johnson.
Like Jack Johnson?
Yeah.
He was there?
Yeah, he just showed up with his son.
What?
Yeah, he just showed up with his son, and he was like hanging out with us. Like it was just another day in life. And I was like,
that's amazing.
Yeah, I was like, that's so cool. That like I was so happy for him, because he was able to just come there and like share in this space with us, you know?
Yeah.
And it was like super honestly, even after someone told me like, yeah, Jack Johnson, I was like, oh cool. Like it. Like he had already been there. He already kind of like established that like he was just one of us. You know what I mean? And like
that guy's super chill.
He really is.
Yeah.
I didn't actually talk to him. He, after someone told me who he was too, I was just like, he seems like he's enjoying himself. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Just give him some space.
Yeah, and he was like having a great time with his son and everything. So, but that was like just kind of a cool testament to the community and like the type of people that they are. You know? Yeah. Is that. They didn't care about that. Like I think some people might have talked to him because like everyone there is into music also. Yeah. You know, so like they probably appreciated him for that. But like as far as having any kind of like weird sway over people, I think that in a weird sense, like the entire like demonetization of the whole like community there, like kind of just takes someone who's a celebrity and is just like, hey, you're just one of us. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like. I mean, obviously he's probably wealthier than most of us, you know what I mean? But like, that doesn't matter to this community at all. Like all that we were like caring about and invested in the whole week is just like, you know, having personal communications with people over these wilderness skills. Yeah, because
at that point, Jack Johnson is just as interesting as like some other guy, that like the wild chef guy. Oh, dude. Or any of those guys. They're all interesting. to me, you know, it's like they all have that depth of like, I want to sit down and talk to you. You know?
To me, my friend JT will always be more interesting than Jack Johnson. Like, honestly, dude, dude, I gotta give him a plug, dude. He's such a cool dude. He studied with like an Apache elder and like learned how to make pottery. He works on the Navajo reservation during the winters and like is a sheep herder down there for them, a butcher. And he like is learning how to play the oud, like, and he speaks like 3 languages and like.
They're probably all really random languages. They're probably not
Turkish. He speaks Navajo.
That's like
that
sounds right.
try to like even pronounce a word in Navajo. Good luck. Like,
yeah.
It's like trying to make animal sounds, like not trying to, like, I don't want it to come across as like, you know, like Native Americans are like animals, but like
all the sounds we make are animal sounds.
They are, but right, but as far as just trying to find something to compare it to, it's very, very difficult to like even pronounce some of those words. But yeah, bottom line, like, it's a really cool community of people, and it's kind of an older community of people, which is the opposite end of the spectrum of what I usually experience with like parkour and, you know, a lot of the other interests that I have, because it's usually a younger crowd.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool to bridge that gap a little bit, age-wise, and be like, okay, something does happen after I turn 30. You know, like there is, like, I'm not just gonna like wither away and die. You know?
Yeah.
Like, you know, there's these people doing amazing things and they're really fulfilled in their lives, and a lot of them are fathers too, which is like something that I'd hope to be someday, you know. I think so like that's kind of cool to open up that door a little bit mentally, you know what I mean, which is like not
so it's like you got to see a bunch of future versions of you walking around, and you're like, what can I learn from these people, like what's going on, what do I need,
definitely.
So do you see yourself as a hide tanner or a wild chef, the preparer? That's specializing.
Man, that's the question right there.
Yeah, like where, what's the most exciting pathway for you right now?
I think the thing I'm excited about most right now is actually organic farming. Like, the reason why I like it so much actually is it's a bit opposite in a healthy sense for me, I think, to all of like the movement art stuff that I do. Like, it makes me slow way down. It makes me get more invested in like, you know, the processes of working with seemingly like less significant things, and it's just like it's a slower process overall. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's also really rewarding, and it's obviously important. You know what I mean? What you eat and the quality of what you eat and having a relationship with the food that you eat is like something that I want to like build, and I see that as being like a lifelong thing. You know what I mean? And so that and hunting are like 2 things that I'm really excited about.
Do you know who Donnie Vincent is?
No.
He's one of these guys that makes these like hunting documentaries.
Okay.
Where like he'll go out and like he's like in the bush plane, they're flying out in the middle of nowhere, and I caught a Joe Rogan with him, super good, because they're talking about his big thing. I'm
going on Joe Rogan next after this one.
Dope. No, it's sweet because his big thing was like people don't ask the hard questions about where their food comes from. Yeah, you know, and like what's going on, because they were talking about this bear. Like blueberry bears, like if you get a bear, like if you hunt a bear that's just been eating blueberries, like his fat is blue.
Oh my gosh!
And like the meat tastes like blueberries.
Oh my gosh!
And it's just like you are what you eat. You know, like if all you do is eat blueberries, you couldn't be a blueberry. Like you're just a walking blueberry.
Willy Wonka style. You just full of blueberry juice.
It's so funny. And I was like, I would have never guessed. You know,
that's really cool. Yeah.
Yeah. But you should definitely hunt that podcast down. It's really good.
What was his name again?
Donnie Vincent.
Donnie Vincent.
Yeah.
Okay. 2 first names.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
It's the way to do it.
Yeah. No, the whole exploration of like what is your craft is something that is like, it's interesting me a lot more now that my craft is turning from being a movement coach of some kind or health coach of some kind into some type of more tangible product, I guess. You know what I mean? Like, I really struggled with being like not a personal trainer so much as a therapist. I was a posture therapist for like 2.5 years. Yeah. And I really enjoyed that work, but it was really difficult for me towards the end, and one of the reasons why I decided to move out of it is it's hard to charge for that type of work. You know what I mean? Like it just feels like when you are working with someone who's in pain, first of all, which is a very vulnerable place to be with someone, which is like honestly not something that I ever felt super comfortable being so young and holding that space for someone, especially if they were older. Because you have to kind of go into their pain with them. You know what I mean? And I've been through a lot of chronic pain, so that was the thing that made me more comfortable with it. But
it's easy when you're young to be like, let me tell you about barefoot running.
Yeah.
But if someone's 50 and they're overweight and that they're gonna blow you off.
I could be like, I broke my back and I fell out of a tree once, and I have actually.
Oh really?
Yeah, I fractured my spine. I fell out of a tree 10 feet, and it took me 8 months to recover or something like that. And I don't really have any problems with it now anymore. Try telling that to someone who's had chronic back pain for 20 years. You know what I mean? And it's you just have no idea.
Yeah.
And I'm still coming to grips with what it means to have a body for an extended period of time. You know what I mean? I'm still figuring out how to pilot this thing basically. When you're working with someone who's in a lot of chronic pain and they basically need someone to come in and express the confidence that they're going to get better that they don't have. You know what I mean? So you have to do that.
I will heal you.
You have to
through posture and
and I mean there were some good results with the practice that I was with. And there was sometimes that we didn't get any results. You know what I mean? And you just kind of have to fess up to that. But when you're trying to hold someone's hand and guide them through something, you don't want to come out and be like, well, there's a chance that this could work. Because if it's like if you don't express that confidence, then they're not gonna meet you halfway. You know what I mean? So that's really hard to charge money for, in my opinion. Any kind of healing work like that, where it's not like a imminent medical need that you're just going to have an intervention for and start to see results with immediately. It's something that is more borderline spiritual. You know what I mean? Working through that kind of stuff and
that's because if you're coming in to learn a new skill like yoga or something, even if it doesn't it's not like that's you feel like you've been or you're not living up to what you're selling.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, they walk away with learning some yoga. It's they might suck at it. And
exactly.
all you can do is be like, hey, you gotta keep working on it.
Exactly.
But if someone's coming in with a bunch of pain, and you're like, it's like and even if you know it, you're like, hey, look, it's like you don't you're dealing with 40 years of terrible posture, and you gotta somehow correct that in the next couple weeks. No, this isn't gonna happen. And then if they don't have that mindset of it's gonna get worse before it gets better, and I need to work on this and I can fix this,
and with the whole postural lens too, I don't necessarily have a complete answer for why I didn't want to be involved with it anymore through that lens of trying to correct the human body, but I kind of just grew weary and exhausted looking at it through that lens, and I would definitely ascribe more to the side of the spectrum through my own experience that the human body's not stupid. You know what I mean? And that it's more about your posture is a reflection of how you live and of who you are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And if you want to make corrections and adjustments to it, probably the best way to go about that isn't by being super anal retentive about it. You know what I mean?
That makes sense. Yeah.
Because that's not a part of myself that I want to necessarily express.
Yeah.
I want to be less of that, not more.
Yeah. So the way if you were going to reinvent this with some gift of hindsight looking back, it's maybe you'd suggest to those people change their environment, change the chairs they sit on, change how they sleep, the type of bed they have.
It'd have to be both.
Yeah.
It'd have to be both because
it a whole we're just going to flip your world upside down because you're changing Like you can't just change one thing.
That's like changing
and hope it's gonna work.
That's like it's like changing your diet. It's exactly analogous to changing your diet, in my opinion. Like if you're gonna change lifestyle elements, that's like changing what you eat. But if you're gonna introduce some type of exercise-based intervention that is a little bit more regimented, that's like taking a supplement.
Yeah. Oh.
So if you have someone who's like really, really nutritionally deficient in something for their entire life and they've been sitting like this, probably just changing what they sit in or telling them to go walk every day isn't going to help them any more than telling someone who's super nutritionally deficient their entire life than telling them just to eat more vegetables.
Yeah.
Like they need some type of supplement that has the right dosage of what they need. But I really am at my wit's end, to be honest, of how to deduce that type of thing.
Yeah.
From a mechanistic perspective.
Huh.
So what the process that I was involved with was all about measuring your body and everything. And it's like, okay, well maybe that's giving you some valuable data. And I still do actually, if I'm helping people, like, if someone like tweaks their neck out or something like that, like the guy that runs the wilderness school that I went to, he like tweaked his neck out, going up to one of the backpacking trips that we were doing. And I measured him, saw his hip was up and everything. I just had him do some basic movements and everything and relax and breathe and everything through it, and it helped him out enough that he was able to keep going.
Yeah.
But that's a Band-Aid. And it works.
Yeah.
But are you going to change what you're eating?
Yeah. When if that's taking the supplement, changing your diet, that'd just be like a full body blast of like, we get you doing squats, we're gonna get you doing we're gonna get you to run up this hill, we're gonna get you to like just get your body back moving in a way, and then find a way to incorporate that into your everyday life somehow.
Or like in my case, just looking at my own athletic journey in a mirror, maybe doing a little bit of nothing every once in a while would be good. You know what I mean? Honestly, like I'm a little bit obese when it comes to how much movement nutrition I'm putting into my body a lot of days.
Yeah.
And it's like sometimes your system just needs time to catch up. Sometimes you need to fast.
Yeah.
Like that's something that I've actually started to do. I started to do it kind of throughout the summer when I was up at camp by default, because sometimes like when you're on a backpacking trip or something like that, you just don't eat everything that you want. You don't eat to satiation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Am I saying that word right?
I don't know. What word was it?
Satiation.
I don't know what that word is.
It's like you're satisfied, but you're not saturated with food.
Oh, okay.
I think I'm saying it right. Anyways.
You're not stuffed.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Eating to satisfaction. I'll just say that.
Yeah. You're not finishing your plate because it's still there. You're like, I'm stuffed, but it's Indian night, and when is this? I'm gonna have to wait a month before it's Indian night again.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna keep eating.
Well, honestly, sometimes that's what I'll do. Like if there's a ton of food available, I'll just go. But like at the Wilderness Skills Gathering, we ate so much food that for the 2 days after that, I just didn't eat breakfast and lunch basically. You know what I mean? Because I was just I just feel like my body needs some me time. You know what I mean? To kind of clean some stuff out a little bit, and I was drinking a lot of water and everything. And I mean, I'm not trying to lose weight or anything like that, but I don't feel like I lose weight from doing that.
Yeah. You're trying to optimize the way you feel and how,
and it feels good on my mind too. Yeah. Because I feel like I don't think that I am fed by food alone, you know what I mean, in a what I need as a person type of sense.
Yeah.
So, but I do think that when I'm completely full all the time, that I feel like I just don't need anything, and I just kind of get lazy. So today, I actually plan on, because I kind of experiment a little bit sometimes. I feel way more present when I'm not completely full. You know what I mean? And I was like, I know I'm gonna have a podcast today with Junnn. So I don't want to, eat a bunch of fatty food and feel sluggish and
Yeah.
I'm way more alert and I'm way more present basically when I have.
That's fascinating because people
have a little bit of an appetite. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you have a little bit of an appetite for food. You have a little bit of an appetite for all the things that are associated with getting food. You know?
Yeah.
Which is, it's kind of primitive mindset that you go into.
Yeah, no, it makes sense.
I'm always interested in exploring that a little bit more, especially from a focus for doing things like cliff jumping and stuff like that perspective. You know what I mean? Because man, you just know some days when you're on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You show up and you're just like, wow, why do I feel so good right now? Like, and I think that for me a big part of that is having the right level of full on my tank. You know?
That's fascinating because, yeah, I've always looked at it like cycles. Like my life just kind of like I just go through cycles of like I'm super productive or I'm not super productive, and like you're just kind of like okay, like I just gotta get as much done when I'm productive because there's gonna become this moment where like I can't get out of bed and like I'm just super tired and like I do the bare minimum, like I like show up to places I've committed to and that's it, and then other days it's like you're staying up all night and like you're doing like the extra mile on everything, and it's like
and so you can't stop.
It's like how can I be in that? How can I at least control that? So
right, because you don't want to be in that all the time either.
Yeah, no, that'd be burn the candle at both ends. You know, it's like it'll burn out twice as fast. But being able to like snap into that when you need it would be really nice, and that's because people are really comfortable with going like, oh, I'm just going to drink another cup of coffee because I'm feeling a little sluggish.
Right.
You know, I think people are less comfortable with being like, oh, I'm going to skip a meal, so I get a like that hunger.
Yeah.
So I'm alert. Like they don't like listen to their body in that way.
Yeah. Looking at this as a meta idea too of kind of that, because they're talking about like seasons of life, basically seasons of being like through your hormones and everything. Yeah. That's a funny meta idea to like explore on using a lifetime as like a scale, you know? Yeah. I mean? Because you see that in a lot of ways in like in emotions and in like physicality and everything. Because like when you're a baby, you have like minimum strength and maximum mobility. You know what I mean? And when you're a little kid, like you don't really have enough like strength to like hurt yourself that bad. You could if you like fall off of something. Yeah. But like you see little kids like.
But even your bones are more bendy.
Yeah, exactly. Like two kids like get in a fight or something like that, or two kids just like roughhouse. You know what I mean? Like kind of dipping into like Rafe Kelly territory here with the roughhousing material. Like, when two kids like roughhouse and like and everything, they're not able to like hurt each other as much. You know what I mean?
Sit down
they
have mass.
Yeah, exactly. And their bodies are more resilient and everything because they're still growing. But if you put like two like 35-year-old guys and you're just like, all right, now wrestle, one of them is going to get hurt in like 15 seconds or less. Yeah. You know what I mean? But if you
just gotta have a car, those muscles are crazy tight.
Yeah. But if you roughhouse through your entire life at every stage, you know what I mean, and you're exposing yourself to risks and everything, and you're experiencing these ups and downs instead of being in the middle all the time. You know, because when you're balanced in life, nothing happens basically. Yeah. Imbalance is what creates. You know,
okay, this is a great. So as the universe was being created, right?
Oh shit!
Big Bang, right? Well, there's this crucial point of like, there's no stars, there's no galaxies, there's no nothing. It's like there's just kind of like basic, like the forces have like gravities here, and you know all these like the basic physical forces have existed, and all like the light dust that has settled is settling in the universe. If it was spread perfectly even, no stars would have formed. Because there would have been no dust clouds collapsing into the first stars.
No potential energy.
Yeah, basically. But because it was clumpy. Yeah. Because there was this clumpiness to it all. The dust started collapsing in on itself and making stars. I thought that was fascinating. How it's like clumpiness. That's what kicked this whole thing off.
Yeah. That's a good feeling to describe like your whole life up until your mid-20s. Basically, it's like it feels kind of clumpy.
a little clumpy. Yeah, and pressure.
Yeah, and I just got a book from my mom of all people. Yeah, she gave me this book called "The Defining Decade: Making the Most of Your 20s." Huh. And at first I was like, all right, there's another like Andrew turn your life around type of book. Not that she does it with me all the time. My mom loves me. I love my mom. But honestly, this book was great.
It's good.
It's really good, and it's talking about you know this kind of sinusoidal like wave of clumpiness that is developing throughout your entire life and kind of converging, and settling down as you get into your late 20s and early 30s, and how biologically and psychologically and sociologically you start to find your center, and you start to become less people. You know what I mean? Like, you start to become more of like one person. You know?
Yeah. That's a really good way to put that.
Yeah,
you start to become less people.
Yeah, I don't know why that makes sense to me, because like
or it's been said that you're the sum of the 5 people you hang out with the most.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's another way to think of it. For
yeah.
Sure.
So it's like the older you get, the more you become like, you know, like you might be hanging on to like some friends you had in high school, and
Maybe.
you might be trying to like incorporate that attitude.
Totally.
And it might just linger around enough that you've edited anything of that person out that isn't you. And now that's just there.
Right, but whichever way it comes into your life, whichever way that influence comes in, like you start to change less. You know what I mean? You start to become more stable, like as a person, in a literal biological sense, but in a sociological sense, people expect that of you. So when you get into your late 20s and early 30s, people expect you to have had certain experiences, to have had a certain amount of work experience, to have been in a certain amount of relationships, to have, you know, had a certain amount of travel experience or something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe because of like a hive mind type of thing, or just kind of not a hive mind, but just a groupthink type of fallacy. You know what I mean? Where it's like, oh yeah, everyone's done this stuff by this time because I know enough people that have like an availability heuristic. Like I can think of, you know, a certain amount of people that have done this stuff by this age, so like that's most people.
Been to Thailand, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like there's this
totally
kind of, it's like social stereotypes of it too. Like,
it is
like benchmarks of like.
Yeah, but there's truth to every stereotype in a sense.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And so it gets harder to start a new career, and it gets harder to start new relationships, and it gets harder to, you know, XYZ.
Yeah.
Start a new hobby or something like that. Like the older that you get, you know what I mean. And you know. You can't just see that as a bad thing. Like, it's actually a very good thing, unless unless you haven't, you know, had any experience with any of those things. You know what I mean? And so it was really liberating for me to read that, because then I was like, okay, this pressure that I'm feeling right now of like, okay, why do I feel like I'm learning to throw a ball for the first time with a lot of this organic farming and hunting and wilderness skills type stuff? You know, when you know, everyone around me is like, oh, like, you know, why are you doing that? Like you should, you know, stick with what you know.
Yeah.
And not that everyone's saying that, but it's like I get, you know, some surprised, you know, looks sometimes when I tell people that I'm gonna go work on an organic farm in Hawaii for 3 months. You know,
it seems almost random.
Like, it seems random.
Yeah.
It's actually the most intentional thing that I've done in my life up to this point, because like I know that this is something that I want to go into, and I know that now is the time to do it. Because if I wait to do it, it's going to be harder and harder for me to do it. It's a lot harder to be an intern in your 30s, probably.
Yeah.
You know? And that was a really good quote from this book that I read. Is like the 2 things necessary in order for something to succeed are a plan and not quite enough time. Because it lights a fire under your ass a little bit to get going. You know what I mean? If you have enough time to do something, then you kind of wait around and you don't really do anything about it.
Yeah. There's something called Perkins' Law. That's like things will swell to the size that you give it. So like if you've got to like write an essay, you know, if you have a week to write an essay, like you're gonna make sure you take the whole week.
Yeah.
You know? But if it's due the next night, you're probably gonna make the same quality of essay. It's just gonna pull an all-nighter and it's just gonna whip it out.
Totally. Yeah.
You know, so you've just condensed all that time down.
Yeah.
And because of that hard deadline, that's like what made that happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot to be said for that, for like goal setting and any type of expectation or intention that you have for something, because like you know, that goal, that expectation is gonna dictate how well you. How much you put into something, how much intent you put into something in the present moment.
Yeah.
So that's like a positive way of looking at how perception of the future can impact the present. Like, you don't just want to be present and ho hum, you know.
Yeah.
You want to be present and like I've arrived here because I'm going there, you know.
Yeah.
Like,
have you found personally like it's worked, like if so using like a hiking metaphor, it's like just one foot in front of the other, or like I just need to get to that tree, or like I know I'm getting to like this one spot, like I'm trying to get to this camp, right? It's like you can't see the camp, like it's like far in the distance, but you know you got to get there, or is it like the tree, or is it just like
I kind of do both, and it's I go back and forth between two things for myself when it comes to like moving towards something that I want. I look at what I want to get to, which is like, man, if I had to like try to put a pin in it right now, I'd be like, I want to have a family and land with a farm and hunt and be as non-monetized as possible. Okay, that's like an idealistic type of thing, and be in a community where people are like doing all sorts of awesome stuff all the time and crafting and doing movement arts and everyone kind of like, not just that, but like being in a place where everyone kind of has their place. You know what I mean? And everyone feels like they're appreciated and love is the currency, I guess. You know, where like the appreciation that you're
or like everyone's engaged with something.
Totally.
Everyone's like
and is that super idealistic? Yeah, that's compared to where I'm at right now. Like we were talking about earlier, like, you know, where I'm at right now, where I want to be, and then subtract the difference. Like that's a huge fucking difference.
Yeah.
Like, but the way that I keep myself moving towards that is looking at the things that I have around me right now that make me excited about doing that. So, you know, the things that make me excited about working towards that is like, you know, going to like wilderness skills gatherings and like, you know, making arrowhead necklaces, you know what I mean? And going and working on an organic farm in Hawaii. Like I specifically chose like Hawaii because like that seems really cool to go there. I could have just done it at a farm like around here, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And maybe it's silly. Maybe like it would have been better to do around here, but like for now, that's what gets me off my butt to go do it. You know what I mean? So like staying in that, keeping an eye on the experimental phase in the future where you want to be, but living in the play right now, you know, is like that's what gives me the excitement to keep going, because I don't want to get there and be not excited. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't want to, you know, be tinkering away and be like, yeah, I made it.
I did it.
Yeah, you know, like I want to, and I also don't want to look back on where I've come from and been like, all right, well, good thing I had all my excitement back then. Now it's time to get to work. You know, I want to build a habit of, you know, being excited about doing the next thing and being excited about being in the process of doing it too.
Yeah.
Which is like, that's where.
That's huge.
That's where I have a lot of confidence in doing the organic farming, because I don't just like picking the carrot out of the ground and eating it. Like I actually enjoy the process of like making compost and making soil out of that compost and, you know, pulling weeds and whatever. Like I know that work is something that I enjoy, so I'm not really worried about, you know, getting too caught up in the end result to the point where I just say, all right, screw this, I'm just going to go make some money now. You know? Yeah.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, because it's just like, because like in that idealistic version of that community and that space that you're living in, mm-hmm. you know, have you had hints of that?
Big time. I mean, going and living up in Mount Shasta for 2 months was awesome, and there was just there's this phrase that we use up at camp, which is help when help is needed, you know, and when you have that type of mindset, you quickly realize that the help that you recognize is the help that you can see yourself jumping in on and fulfilling, because it's like, you know, you have a little bit of a bias of like how you can be helpful. Yeah. And so when you have that mindset and everyone kind of has that, everyone kind of gets in where they fit in, you know, and everyone kind of gravitates towards applying their strength to the group, which that's like the best feeling. It's like, you know, everyone's just running around like a bunch of ants doing what they do and being appreciated for it, because you're doing something that someone else is maybe not as well equipped for. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so you feel that appreciation, you have that appreciation for other people, and it's like, you know, you're all working, but you don't just feel like a cog in a wheel, because you're all working towards the same thing.
Yeah. And there's a certain level of like, I mean, you couldn't have done that, you know, and everyone's kind of appreciating that. And,
yeah.
And so it's like
definitely.
When we were moving the gym, there was a time where we had to back a trailer up into the old warehouse, and Josh's dad was there.
Oh, cool.
Right? And he's a crazy pilot. You know, he's flown like every plane the U.S. military has, probably. Yeah. And he just like, whoop, just like one take. just zips this thing
with
in.
like margin on either side.
Oh yeah, like didn't break a sweat.
Yeah,
and it was like you made it look easy.
Oh man,
and we all appreciate it because we're all really tired right now. Like,
man.
So that's
in regards to like
having a skilled community. Having a skilled community, really helpful.
Yeah,
like,
and
awesome.
And when you live with that community too, you're very aware of who's good at what. You know what I mean? And so instead of being like, oh, I wonder how I could do this and like tinker around, like wasting a bunch of time with it or whatever, like get other person come over and do it, and probably learn a lot by observing them doing it even, which is like, I mean, that's how I learned how to flint knap basically. I just sat there and watched Jack just like make this amazing like spearhead, you know what I mean? And not even just watching like what he was doing, but like how his body was moving, you know what I mean? And you just pick up on those things. And I feel like that type of observational learning and that learning by living among something is replaced by like search engines nowadays. You know what I mean? And I was thinking about that the other day when I was like, I wanted to find a recipe for how to make lefse, which is a Norwegian like potato bread. Uh-huh. It's like a potato tortilla basically, and it's like flaky and it's like amazing. You put some really butter and cinnamon on it. It's like, oh my god, it's so good.
Is it more like pastry or is it more?
It's more like pastry. It's more yeah. You don't. I mean, you can put like meat and stuff in it. And it's like,
ooh,
it's amazing.
A little meat pie.
Yeah, dude. I gotta stop. Anyways, and I was like thinking to myself, man, I really want to make this, and so I was like, oh, I'll just look it up online how to make it and everything. I was looking up online and I was just like, this like doesn't seem quite right and everything. And so I was like, dude, my grandma has been making this stuff for like years and years. And so I like sent her a text and I was like, hey, like do you know any good recipes for lefse and everything like that? And so she like sent me this book that like has like this lefse recipe in it and everything. And then I talked to my aunt on email and she was like, yeah, I don't even bother trying to make it. She's like, it's so hard to make. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
it's one of those things that has like some weird mother
yeast. You have to like rice the potatoes and like chill the flour like just right and have like 2 or 3 different types of rolling pins like and bake it like just right and stuff, and it's just like, and you're supposed to learn how to do that online.
Yeah.
Forget about it. Like the more like rich and like and dense a skill is, and like it's like the more you have to be close to that source, you know what I mean?
Interesting.
And
so it's almost like the more important it is to learn, and like how like the richer it is to be like for you to experience this thing, the harder it is it's going to be to get online.
Maybe I don't know, like because I was talking about this with someone the other day too, and that's obviously as a generation, like we're getting better and better at extracting information from like internet type sources and making it actually work for us. Like if like if you want to learn how to put something together by watching a tutorial online or something like that, probably you'll like ask a teenager or something like that to like find that type of information online versus like asking someone who's like in their 60s. You know what I mean? Like, and that's not like to bash on people that are older. It's just like, dude, people that are younger have grown up with this type of information gathering resource, and they're getting better and better at it. But it has a limit. You know what I mean? There's a huge limit of like how well you can learn certain types of skills. I think skills that are more like craft type and like focus more on like kinesthetic feedback, like movement type skills and like craftsmanship type stuff.
Yeah.
Like, if you're around someone like doing flint knapping and stuff like that, you're just like, I swear to you, like I would like watch his like body move or something like that, and then I'd be like, okay, and I would like do that, and it would like work perfect. Or like I did the same thing the other day, like watching some guy like crack a bullwhip at the Wilderness Skills event.
Yeah.
And like I was just like watching like how he was like doing it, and I was like, okay, and then like did it, you know, and like you could watch 100 videos of how to do that, and it's like same thing with parkour. You could watch like 100 tutorials of how to do something and like be trying it, and then like show up to a jam and there's like some person doing it and you just do it.
Yeah.
Like that personal connection, like there's a lot more communication and a lot more information gathering going on than we think, and we're trying to replace it with this.
Yeah.
We're trying to replace it with the internet, and because it's convenient, it's faster. So like it's a quantity versus quality type thing.
Yeah. No, that's fascinating. Because it's like, it's like judgment's a lot easier when it's like disconnected. When you're online, you can just like kind of quickly like zip through stuff and go like, no, that's rubbish, and okay, I like that, but I'm not gonna watch the whole thing. It's like it's almost, you can kind of sloppily do it compared to like when you're hanging out with people. It's like you're overhearing conversations, like you're like, it's like who knows what like subconsciously you're taking in, and getting into your system when you're there. And I remember at a BB Jam once, a guy he just did like it was like a lazy vault, but like on his chest, like over a rail. And he was like boop, and he just did it. And I was like, I've been doing this for all this. I've never seen anyone do that before. And I was just like, and it's one of my favorite moves. It's so simple. And I thought like I had like all the simple movements down, and like here this guy just like whipped one out that I'd never seen before.
Totally. When you're sharing space with someone and you're learning about some type of thing, you're taking in a lot more about the context of that situation and everything. And I think as our generation, which I'm a part of, so I know shit, we're starting to figure out like the limitations of like internet learning and stuff like that versus in context experiential type of learning. And that's just like I was talking to someone about this right before I came here, like the problem of like technology versus what would you call the opposite of technology, like primitivism, I guess, perhaps. Like, just for the sake of the example, like the most basic form of technology is like a lever, basically. Like you're going to, like, you're picking up a bunch of rocks, and then you just like, you get a pry bar and you're just like, boom, this is way easier, you know what I mean? And you could keep following that idea until eventually you're just pushing a button and like a bucket is just doing it, you know what I mean? But at that point, you've atrophied your body and your connection to what it is that you're working with to a certain degree, to where you're getting the end result, but you're not getting anything out of the process anymore. You know? And so it's like, where is the line on that? I don't know if that's something that is necessarily defined. I think it's something that everyone has to learn for themselves. Because we change as we go throughout our lives too, So something that was like, when I was a baby, crawling around on all fours was like the best way to do things, you know what I mean? But like now it's not the best way to do things, you know what I mean? Like now that's too primitive for me, like as a form of transportation. But like it gave you the development you needed, and then that was just the right amount of leverage. Now I'm using more. And now leverage. Anything, when you go back, it's like a regression. It's not like the best. But it's nice to know how to do that still. So I think that maybe a good takeaway from that type of scenario is like, it's good to have options. You know what I mean? For whatever situation you might be in, because being really, really good with, driving cars or something like that, which is like, driving cars is like the craft of our society. Like, dude, people are incredible at driving if you think about it on like a large scale. You know what I mean? And like, that's a really useful thing, unless, you're like trapped on a mountain and something like that, and like your legs don't work that well because you haven't hiked in like years. And it might be really, really useful to be like a mountain climber or something like that, unless, you are living like in the middle of a city where like you need to like, use urban forms of transportation and stuff like that, and you don't even have a driver's license. But
even with driving, you've seen this like technology, it's almost like an arms race of like skill versus how competent your car is. Right now we're getting to the point, because like before, cars were in like there's a story about like the Studebaker company, it's like Studebaker, they made carriages actually back in the day.
I'm a little familiar with the name.
And so they were
full?
I might be full, might have died.
Uh-oh.
That's okay. Like if they were doing so like when the cars came out, they were like, oh, we should start making cars, and they were like, we shouldn't make cars. It's like they're loud, they're dangerous, and no one wants them. And they're like, well, how about an electric car? So Studebaker's first car was actually an electric car, and it was called the Studebaker Electric. And you could actually just, back in the day, you could just drive up to like a power plant and they just charge your car. This is like, turn of the century where there's no rules. There's like houses next to factories and like it's just craziness.
That's wild.
Yeah, but like, and they were willing to do like electric because cars were hard to operate. It was hard to like crank them and turn them on, and you had like the choke, and you had like even I can't drive a stick shift. I don't know if you can.
I can drive one if I had to.
Yeah, so it's like you've seen
even
even going from like the automatic starter to stick shift to automatic to now like the Tesla self-driving cars. It's like slowly, and like cars are getting more accessible to people, and they're getting safer with each like kind of link in the chain. So that's interesting.
Yeah, the progression of technology is like that's a whole podcast its own. But like, I was talking to someone last night, and we were saying like, man, can you imagine being around for the invention of like the first airplane, and then living to see the moon landing? That is like. For our generation, that's going to be like, I grew up as the internet was just coming about, and probably by the time I'm like in my 50s or 60s, we're going to have like artificial intelligence. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's like analogous, I think.
And I'd be like, it's like I had an AOL account, and then like
I remember when you had to wait for the internet to load.
Yeah.
And now, like my
now it gets beamed in my brain.
Exactly.
But like what I was doing with that car example, I was just trying to show like how the technology is faster than people's interests of learning the skill. Maybe
totally.
It's like if the car never progressed past the Model T, would it have stuck around? Would people have just been like, well, riding my bike's easier, or would there have just been more options? Would have things like developed in a different way? I don't know.
Yeah,
but.
No, it's interesting to see
because people are trying to make it easy.
And it's interesting to see like the, I don't know, whatever it is that I'm a part of right now, like the voluntary regression. Like, what is that about?
Yeah,
I don't know why we do that as a species. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is it because I'm not quite good enough at the other stuff, and so I'm just like, oh, no, I don't want that. I want to go live in a cave or something like that. It's kind of like a pitiful. Like sometimes I wonder if that's part of it. Is it because I'm not into computers and stuff like that, and like not into the arms race of technology, and so I'm like having this adverse reaction. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To try and specialize myself and try and distinguish myself in like kind of an ego way.
That's a really good question to be asking.
And I think that can definitely be part of it sometimes. Although I'm trying to make my actual lifestyle more dependent upon these skills and less about the skills being like a showboating type thing.
Yeah.
And the closer that it moves towards that, the closer that I move towards kind of absolving myself from the ego being the driver.
Yeah. I think, and this goes back to like what we were talking about, like the formative years of your 20s and success, and like, well, shouldn't you have been here so far? Because you're in your late 20s. You should have your life together by now.
Yeah.
Like, it's like this like illusion of success that people can like portray online. And I think some of that regression might be because like this illusion that society, this version of society is better.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, you're just not seeing the full picture. It's like you're not seeing, all the. It's like how everyone's on antidepressants, and how important pharmaceutical drugs are for Americans to keep this crazy schedule that we have.
Yeah, totally.
And people aren't like in tune with themselves. They're not listening to their bodies. They're just shoving junk into it. It's like, I'm tired, so I need some caffeine. And it's like, oh, you should go to sleep.
Go to sleep and have the right amount of like, moderate physical activity throughout the day that is provided by doing labor to a certain degree.
Yeah.
Like, honestly,
it's like they're not trying to like game the systems they can control naturally, maybe.
Right.
And like you might just be picking up on that and going like, well, this is nonsense. I'm just gonna go over here.
I mean, I think if you really try and you make an effort to look at where humanity's come from, you know what I mean? And I mean, I don't know exactly how long humanity has been a species. Like I'm not too into the numbers game on that.
Yeah.
But like regardless, we've gone through a pretty exponential like change in the past like 100, 200 years. You know what I mean? And so it's kind of unfair to like look at where we're at right now and assume that that's like normal. You know what I mean? In comparison to like our biology, you know. And so I know that's getting back into like the whole like paleo type thing, but from a even more just basic perspective, like our overall lifestyle does not match up with how our current society is like expecting us to live, and it really is an expectation.
Yeah,
you know, because if you look at, you know, what do we need in order to live? We need to make money. Well, who's making the most money right now? Tech jobs. You look at like the migration of like green in California, and where does it all start? Dude, it all comes out of like the Silicon Valley and like LA and like all these other places where, like, you know, basically there's the artificial intelligence race is happening.
Yeah.
From what I can tell. You know what I mean? And or artificial intelligence in the sense that like we're taking automation to just new levels. It might not result in artificial intelligence, but it is.
It might not lead to like consciousness or like the singularity is what they like
exactly. But you know, it really feels like a lot of the time that all jobs that function around monetization and you know, all of that, they're all kind of going to support this backbone of technological advancement. You know what I mean? Whether it's I kind of felt like that even as a therapist and as a personal trainer and everything. I was like, wait a second, I'm just the person that's helping keep healthy the people that are, you know, doing these technological advancements and everything. You know what I mean? I'm still playing for that team. You know what I mean? And so it's kind of
and you're just reaping the benefits of the trickle down of their wealth.
Yeah,
because like they're paying you.
And it's the people that are you know, creating the biggest levers. You know what I mean? That are calling the shots. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that's what technology is. And I keep trying to look at it that is it's leverage. You know what I mean? It's like a way to make your energy count for more.
Yeah.
So money is too.
Yeah.
Money is energy divided by time.
How much do you think that's actually controlled by a person's like skill level, and how much is just controlled about like people riding a technology boom that society's ready to accept, right? Like
that's
if you look at
leverage too.
Well, if you look at like because you can look at people like, you know, Joe Rogan or Casey Neistat, these like monoliths of like you know, making videos or in podcasts, and like how much of it was just like right person, right time. Like obviously there was this skilled person, and they knew how to ride this wave, but there was also this technology wave that was happening, and people were ready to, you know, eat it up, and they were ready to consume the daily videos that Casey was throwing out there.
Oh, man,
and
just the accessibility to videos is just a crazy. That's something that art is new and unique to our generation.
Yeah, like, and video is so powerful.
It is incredibly powerful.
It is the closest thing we got. Like watching that guy do the bullwhip. Closest thing you got to not actually seeing the guy.
Yeah,
you know, you can watch
but deceptively different.
It is
deceptively different.
But it's close.
close enough to like pretty much enslave a whole generation. I would say. I'll just say it, dude. Like, I mean, like, I catch myself sometimes sitting around the house and everyone's on their own thing.
Yeah,
I do it too.
Yeah,
because I'm as long as I'm, you know, using money and all that kind of stuff. Like, I am part of it. Like, you know, and I mean that's a bit of a stretch. I still like to use social media to connect.
Yeah,
I do, but like editing videos takes time. Taking the video takes time.
Yeah, editing
the video takes time. Writing the description for the post takes time. And I like to
tagging it.
I like to, and I like to make it quality because I like to make it interactive. I like to make it deep, you know. But that does take time. And you make an Instagram money every time you do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's just, you know, no one's shit doesn't stink. You know what I mean? Like we're all in this together. And even though I'd like to be like, I'm not. Yeah, all the tech people, like, I'm not a part of that. It's like, no, dude, we're on the same planet. We're all here together, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I definitely try to, as much as I can, when I catch myself in my mind being like, screw those other guys. It's like, what other guys? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you know?
It's like you're half in, half out, you know? It's like you're a part of this, you know?
And you're a part of it regardless of whether or not you were like, even if I got to the point where I was completely not dependent upon, money or any type of, technological updates or anything like that people were doing, they're still like my fellow humans. You know what I mean? They're still part of this. They're still part of this conversation that we were all having to, try and live the best life.
Yeah.
And so, I think it's cool to be like, we're all balancing the equation together. You know what I mean? There's people that are on this bell curve and they're way over here and I'm way over here, but we're still part of it.
Yeah.
So.
How do you think the turnover rate is from like people curious about something and enjoying something just in like a very passive way, like on their phone, like, oh, I'm enjoying this, and then what's the turnover from that to actually trying that thing they were watching?
Oh man, not very high.
Do you think the goal is to get that higher? Do you think that'd be in terms
of making a post to try and influence people to look at something a certain way and change their life accordingly?
Yeah, or like just be inspired more, to be like, oh, this person's doing something. This person, it's like they're not any different than me. Because like that's the nice thing about YouTube. It's like it's like he's just filming this on his cell phone. It's like I got a cell phone. Like like what's so different between you and me? And you start playing a game in your head. It's like I maybe even be better than this guy. And then you start like throwing yourself out there.
Yeah,
or even just trying it.
The way that I like to see videos now, and any type of media is the same way that I would see art, which is like physical art that you would make, or craft that you would make, or any sort of other type of like expression. You know what I mean? Like if I'm taking a video, it's of me doing something. That's an expression. Me taking the video in a certain way and editing that video in a certain way is also an expression. So it's like there's some layers going on. And I started to learn more this summer about the concept of like medicine in like a Native American type of way of that word. So when someone says like, oh, like, oh, thanks, I want to give you this arrowhead that I made. Like this is like, I would see that and be like, oh, that's like kind of, there's some medicine in that because they spent some time, making that arrowhead and putting intent into it, and it's a beautiful piece of art. You know what I mean? And so like I kind of carry that with me, maybe in a metaphysical way, I don't know, but in a way that I look at it and I kind of hang things from my car. You know what I mean? Like on the rearview mirror of things that are meaningful to me, and it's kind of like an altar, I guess. And that influences me, and it makes me a certain way. And so I'd like to think that by posting things with a certain intent and filmed a certain way and whatever is going on in the video, that it can be medicine for people. So it's not really up to me necessarily how it impacts them. It will, however it does. Like who are we to control like the circumstances that someone's in when they watch that video and stuff like that? It could be really good. Someone might be like, oh wow, that's so amazing, or someone might be like, oh, that's really amazing. I feel like shit about myself.
Yeah.
I'm gonna,
it's
you
like they're gonna leave a nasty comment.
Yeah, you just don't know.
See this as like, oh, this is just ammunition for me.
Yeah, exactly. But for me, putting it forward, I'm putting it out with the intent that like I want to show people like life is fun, life is awesome. The natural world is beautiful. It's full of all the complexity that our brains need to be stimulated. We don't need to have be looking at screens and crazy technological things to feel a depth about life necessarily. Yeah, which is ironic because they're looking at it through a screen. But I still want to participate in the conversation and of life with everyone, and that happens to be our current state. Yeah.
Because what would be better, seeing a Instagram story of seeing some friends goof off and hurt each other over just doing something dumb or being disrespectful to each other, right? Or like you like barefoot walking out like in the woods or something. Yeah, like exactly. What would be better for that person to see? You know, some bad social interaction, or like here's this guy out here in nature walking barefoot.
Totally, and I just had a thought. It's like the second or third time I've had this thought today, and that's that I think that posting good things on social media is like great and everything, but in comparison to the impact that real life circumstances have on me, like the cliff jumping thing, like way back in the beginning, for instance, like watching cliff jumping videos and being like, yeah, I'm so stoked to go cliff jumping, or watching people for like 3 minutes in real life and having that stick with me so much that I still think about that moment when I want to go out cliff jumping.
Yeah.
Months and months later. I think that we're going to look back on social media in like 10, 20 years and be like, well, that was a weird phase. Honestly, you know what I mean? Like either that.
I certainly hope so.
Yeah, either that or it's going to be a completely augmented reality that's so interactive that it simulates real life.
Yeah.
Really, really closely, and that's going to be weird. But for me, I kind of see myself moving towards the first one. I see myself like weaning myself off of doing that and just, I'm already doing it now, really. Like just being so obsessed with holding space with other people and being intentional.
Yeah.
That's the new high, you know? Like instead of scrolling through and seeing something amazing, just appreciating.
Because I feel like you almost have to discover that when you start making content in a certain way. Like if you have a podcast, you have to learn how to talk to somebody.
Yeah.
If you're making videos, especially if you're filming yourself, you're in somewhat of a social situation.
Yeah.
You gotta have enough guts to hold your camera at you, talk to this person in public.
Or if you're gonna do like a stunt or something like that.
Yeah.
Or if you're making an arrowhead on video, you're like, well, I only got one chance at this. It's like you got an observer or a horde of observers potentially.
Yeah. Yeah.
It can be a positive thing.
Yeah.
I think.
I think that it can really make you grow if you're creating it. But then that kind of leads me. That's like, okay, so best case scenario out of this, everyone starts creating stuff. You know, like everyone's got their podcast. You know, everyone's got some sort of thing they're throwing out there.
That's part of it. Anytime something becomes successful, other people are going to latch on.
But like, I'm talking like literally everybody.
Okay.
Everybody.
Yeah.
That's just a thing. It's like, oh, I've got my own podcast. Like every 13-year-old.
Everyone's doing it, then it's the same as if no one does it almost.
Yeah, and it's like, well, it's just so saturated. Then like, it's almost this like tradition. I don't know. I don't even know. Like, so
yeah.
I was like, that's not the solution, but I guess that's the silver lining to like all the social media stuff is that if you actually decide to create it, it does make you rediscover these things that supposedly social media is like made you lose.
True.
Right?
True.
Yeah. Having a conversation and being in the moment, going out and having a real time with people.
Yeah, I guess just the question that remains is like, in rediscovering that process, can you learn to love that process, or are you so focused on the end result of getting that like and getting that share or whatever that you're kind of the whole setup of whatever it is that you're doing, whether it's parkour, which I've fallen into this with parkour a lot, and any type of like videos and stuff like that is, man, you realize after it's all said and done that you like weren't really that present at all because you were thinking so much about the video.
Yeah.
And that's probably why you like busted your ankle or something like that. You know? So
like your mind's already in the edit.
Yeah.
Like you're already excited.
Totally.
Yeah.
And the more videos and media that you watch, the easier it is to get caught in that. I do believe that.
Yeah.
I think that's a limit that everyone kind of has to find for themselves, I guess.
Yeah.
It's different for everyone, probably.
Yeah. That's fascinating.
But
Andrew, is there anything else you want to add? It's been an hour, 40 minutes.
Damn.
Hour, 50 minutes roughly.
That was enjoyable, man. Thanks for having me on this. Like, I've had a lot of things brewing, and it's interesting. I've had a lot of these conversations that we've had in the past couple of days, so I feel like there's been some subconscious priming going on.
There's prep.
Yeah.
Dude.
Cool.
So glad.
Thank you, and I wish you luck with this podcast. I hope it goes somewhere.
Yeah.
I would be a part of that, so awesome, dude.
Yeah, and you're welcome back anytime. I want to hear more about organic farming and
it's just getting started.
Yeah. This is awesome.
I'll have a big beard by then, maybe.
Yeah.
Actually, probably not, because the dive mask doesn't fit so well when you have a huge beard.
Oh, yeah.
Let's see if I like a ton of Vaseline or something like that.
To get the suction.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness.
Cool.
Dude.
Thanks very much.
Yeah.